flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
Stolen by Ehlers to Wheeler, back to Ehlers, scores!
Kyle Connor has the Midas touch right now.
And another outstanding stop by Connor Hellebuyck.
Check the shoot, score! Oh, what a slick move by Mark Scheifele.
Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV.
We did it, episode 100 of Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. They have not told us to stop doing this. We will forge on into the next century of episodes.
Nice.
Joined here by Mitchell Clinton of Jets TV and 680 CJOB's Jamie Thomas, the original crew from Ground Control. No disrespect to Paul Edmonds at all. We definitely appreciate his inclusion, but this is the OG crew. Guys, yes. Episode 100, welcome.
It's quite an honor to be here, and I was going to say in accepting this award, but there is no award. It's just
grab something off your shelf, Mitch.
Yeah, there we go.
It's got to be some kind of trophy.
Mug.
There you go.
For those of you listening, as this is a podcast, Mitch is currently sitting at his home studio that you see in the 3 takeaways videos after the game and the road report as well. And yes, the little Finnish mug that he's got. Jamie coming to you live from outer space as his digital background is. Not quite sure.
My daughter's bedroom, best internet in the house, so I don't
know.
There you go.
Perfect. He's finally figured it out. Gentlemen, let's get to the task at hand here. The Winnipeg Jets, overall, a pretty solid week after dropping 2 straight to the Edmonton Oilers. They pick up 2 straight wins in Van, and then get the first of a 3-game set against Calgary, obviously falling on Saturday to the Flames 4-2. But Mitch, just overall, your thoughts on what the Winnipeg Jets proved this week coming off those back-to-back losses?
Well, I mean, you win 3 of 4, and you'll take that every week, I think. I mean, maybe you don't want to play 4 and 7 every week, but that'll add up real quick. But you'll take 3 out of 4 anytime you can get it. I think what stands out to me is we're now really into the grind of March. Like we spoke about it a little bit last week and how the schedule was piling up, but yet here are the Jets, and we're 90% through this 17 games in 31 stretch, and they're still rattling off 3 wins in 4 nights, and still had the energy, to come back on Saturday, erase the 2-0 deficit, get to 2-2. And then even though they weren't able to get back on even footing after that, there was still the push in the 3rd period. So there's a lot of character in the group. Now, you can say the Canucks were injured and not at full strength. Sure, but you still have to win the games. And that's kind of something that I think is also lost. Structurally, the Vancouver Canucks usually play a pretty strong and solid game, and while the scores will be 4-1 and 4-0 and 5-1, I think there is still a lot of good things that the Winnipeg Jets did in that, and they were convincing in those wins. I was really pulling for Connor Hellebuyck to get back-to-back shutouts because he hasn't done that in his career yet, and he was so close, just under 90 seconds away. But then you get the split with the Flames, who I thought played much better in the Saturday game than the Friday game. Laurent Brossoit, obviously a 3rd period, he's going to want to have back, but you can tell from the entire team. And I think Logan Stanley kind of said it best after the game on Saturday. They know he's going to bounce back, just like the team has made a habit of doing it this season. So overall, a good week for the Winnipeg Jets.
Jamie, Mitch mentioned him right there. Logan Stanley obviously gets his first NHL goal. An absolute snipe from the top of the circle. Just what was your reaction when you saw the puck go past David Riddick?
I just think it's hard not to be happy for the big guy. He had chances earlier this week to get his first National Hockey League goals, got the first National Hockey League assist out of the way, and I think it further proves that it's going to be very difficult for Logan Stanley to come out of the Winnipeg Jets lineup. He comes in by an injury, and now he has pretty much played his way to stay. And I know that's a long ways away from that type of decision to be made, but to score a goal the way he did, and he's got his first NHL fight out of the way too as well. So there's just a whole bunch of firsts that he's proven that he can play in the NHL. He's proven that spending time in the American Hockey League after being drafted is a good thing to do to cement your game. And I think there's so many people that are happy for Logan Stanley's development and his play. And it's been something to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just as someone who's been in the bubble this year, the guys absolutely love Logan. And I think as soon as that puck went in, the bench was standing up, waiting for the flyby. And, you could tell that everybody was pretty pumped. So congrats to Logan. We actually interviewed Logan on our 99th episode. So if you didn't listen to that, go check it out.
The ground control bump. That's what he got there.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It's a proven science. It's a proven science.
Well, this week's guest is Connor Hellebuyck, and I'm pretty sure he'll get the bump too.
Yes.
All the way to the finals.
Yes, please. Mitch, the third line. I mean, Andrew Copp had 4 goals against the Vancouver Canucks. What a performance by him. Adam Lowry, as well, had 2 goals in the previous game. And then Mason Appleton had 1 on Saturday night against the Flames. Just what have you seen from that trio, and how come they have been so effective?
Yeah, I mean, you add it up over the last, I believe it's 4 games, they've got 7 goals and 12 points. And I mean, it's a line that kind of starts from their own zone out, which is, pretty much the embodiment of what Paul Maurice wants to see from every line on the Winnipeg Jets. And all 3 of them are penalty killers, and real good penalty killers at that. So basically that defensive mindset that they have and those defensive strengths that they have just translate into their 5-on-5 game and their 5-on-4 game. And, the thing that's kind of changed this year, and Andrew Copp said it, is they don't really view themselves as a checking line. Sure, they might get that assignment, but when they're on the road, opposing coaches are doing everything they can to get their top guys away from that line. So now you got another kind of situation in the matchups where maybe the Copp-Lowry-Appleton line is going against an opposition's third line. And the way that the Jets line, that trio is playing, that's an advantage every single night for the Winnipeg Jets. And you look at 7 games against the Flames so far this year, another group that is pretty deep up front. Copp-Lowry-Appleton got 3 goals and 9 points so far in 7 games. So they're finding ways to get to the back of the net. Mason Appleton obviously scoring on Saturday. I think Andrew Copp picked up the assist on that one. So you have guys on that line that can take faceoffs in Copp and Lowry. And at the same time, they're so much different offensively and how they generate offense from the top 2 lines that I think it gives the Jets a really nice mix. And we're starting to see the rewards for those guys who have worked so hard on not only their defensive game, but finding ways to contribute on the offensive side as well.
Jamie, are we starting to see the playoff push edition or version of Connor Hellebuyck? I mean, he's allowed 3 goals in his last 3 starts combined. And one of those goals were in essentially trash time. What have you seen from Connor Hellebuyck that's allowing him to clamp down right now?
I think the best way to kind of answer that question, Tyler, is those last 2 starts that he had, he was phenomenal. But of course, Andrew Copp's 4-goal game overrode his effort in Vancouver. And then of course the first game in Calgary, again, so solid, but the fact that they held on and played so well kind of overshadowed that as well. So it looks like Connor Hellebuyck in November and February of last season, when he just simply was moving things around. His positioning was fantastic, no big rebounds. And, Mitch has brought this up many times, and for good reason. Remember that game in San Jose when he had 50+ saves, and he said I was kind of bored. So
yeah,
that's because everything is hitting him because he's in the right place. So I think those last 3 starts are exactly where he was in the months of November and February. And that is a phenomenal feeling if you're the Winnipeg Jets at this point, to know your goaltender's locked in like that. It was by no fault of his own in those games in Edmonton, especially when Blake Wheeler said they ran into a freak.
Best way to put it.
Yeah, that's probably the best description of Connor McDavid I've heard since he's been in the National Hockey League from Blake Wheeler the other day. So he's in the right place at the right time. And, you outside of that anomaly of a performance from Laurent Brossoit the other night, I think you feel pretty okay with your goaltending as you get to the playoffs here.
Well, sliding into our guest this week, Connor Hellebuyck, obviously perfect segue. I sat down with the Jets goaltender on Saturday afternoon, Talked about a bunch of different things, including his time in Odessa, Texas with the Odessa Jackalopes. And through the power of the internet, I actually reached out to his goaltending partner, Justin Davis. He lives in St. Louis currently. So he gave me a few tasty nuggets to play off of to throw at Connor.
Very nice.
So we talked about that. We talked about just the team this year and quite a bit more. So enjoy this about 20-minute interview.
Hi, this is Connor Hellebuyck, and you're listening to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.
Joined by Connor Hellebuyck here on Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. Connor, this is our 100th episode, so it's a big deal for us. And now I would probably ask you, what's your favorite episode of Ground Control? Have you listened to any of them?
No, I have not.
I figured not. That's all good. Okay, so number 100. Do you remember your 100th NHL win?
Oh, yeah, I have it framed up in my basement. It was against Edmonton, and it was a big win, and I made some big saves late at the end, and the team was pumped.
So since then, you've picked up an extra 64 wins. You're sitting at 164. You're a Vezina winner. You've become one of the most consistent and dependable goalies in the NHL. Now, when you think back to the 11-12 season in Odessa, did you think that you would get here? And I suspect I know the answer to this, but did you think this is where you'd end up?
Well, this was the plan the entire time, and when I was in that season, I really wasn't thinking NHL. I was more thinking about the next step and making myself the best I can every day so I can get to the next step, which at that point was college. And that came rather quickly that year. And then not only that, then I started getting some NHL scouts coming around and asking questions. And it was almost a whirlwind because I wasn't really expecting NHL out of that junior league. I was expecting just let's grind and get to the next step. And then all of a sudden everything started happening at once.
So in Odessa, your goaltending partner was Justin Davis. Do you remember Justin?
I do.
So through the internet, I managed to get in contact with him yesterday. So he gave me some tidbits to play off of here. So I asked him, when you played with Connor, what was he like as a guy and a teammate? And he goes, he was a good guy, always cracking one-liners and laughing at his own jokes. It reminds me of the video the NHL posted of someone rolling him down to practice, which was in Edmonton about a month ago. He says that sums up his personality pretty well. As far as a teammate goes, he was our best player, always competing and making everyone else around him better. What do you remember about him and just your relationship with him?
Oh, JD was awesome. Man, he was just on and off the ice. Great team guy. Really good goalie too. And, there was one time I saw him in St. Louis. It was my rookie year, and I saw him in the stands. And he was waving to me, and I felt so bad because we had just lost, and I'm a rookie. And I wanted to say hi to him, but I was so nervous about what everyone thinks we just lost the game. And I always feel bad about that. So if you contact him again, tell him I said hello. And, he was just so awesome on and off the ice and really clicked with the team. And, miss him a little bit.
I sent him a link to the podcast, so hopefully he hears that himself. One other one that he sent me, I asked him if he had any good stories about you. He said there's plenty, but to name a couple, he said your team took an MMA class once a week to stay in shape. And after class, we messed around fighting each other with headgear on, and he took on the team enforcer, and apparently you kicked his ass. So do you remember that?
Yeah, they'd probably let me win. I always like to think I'm a good fighter, and if you want a good story, we did a Secret Santa for just between the players, and we got a couple guys like joke gifts, right? And I got these Rock'em Sock'em, the blow up boxing gloves, and I forget who gave it to him, but he got him, and he blew him right away, and he was just shadow boxing with these things on for like an hour, and it was hilarious.
That's awesome. I Googled Odessa, and, there's a few things to do, but the thing that I found most interesting was there's this place called Southern Made Donuts. Have you ever tried the donuts from there?
I have not.
Okay, well, so hopefully I'll just take the internet's word for it then.
Well, I'll tell you what, my favorite part about Odessa was the burgers.
Okay.
The meat was just so clean, and my billet family would take me down to a butchery, and the butchery would make their own burgers. And I always remember thinking, like, what is this place? Like, how we can get good food here? And then one bite of that burger, and I was hooked. And I was asking them at least once a week, let's go down and get a burger, because it was so good.
What was that league like? I mean, there's teams from all over the country. Did you play exclusively in your division? How did that all work?
Not exclusively, but For the most part, yes. Most teams take a trip out. We went out to Alaska and got to experience Alaska during the Northern Lights. Yeah. I never got to see the Northern Lights, but I was there when they were supposed to be going out. You know, they weren't showing very well.
You had to Google them then.
Yeah. No. So we got to play Alaska, and that was a great experience in itself. But the Southern Division is nicknamed the Dirty South because you have to fight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a tough division, and every given night the teams are so equal, and you had to be tough. That's just what the fans called for, and no matter where you were in that division, if a goal was going in, the home fans were throwing stuff on the ice. So Corpus Christi was foam pucks, Odessa was foam carrots, Amarillo was these balls that had their logo on it, these foam balls, and then they also had a teddy bear night, and yeah, it was a crazy division. It was fun.
Is odd. Mm-hmm. You know, did you ever come close to a goalie fight at all?
Justin Davis got in a goalie fight. Yes, he did. Yeah.
How did he do?
Thinking he was crazy for it. He did very well.
That's good.
It was so funny because the other goalie tried to get the crowd all pumped up going into it, and then when they grabbed each other, they just like traded blows, as in he would punch and then he would pull back, and the other guy, and neither of them could really reach each other.
Right.
I think Justin got 1 or 2 punches in, but they were just going back and forth, trading punches and dodging, and it was probably a minute long and pretty good fight.
Nice. That's good. Good for him. You know, moving out of Odessa and then going to UMass Lowell, what led to that decision to choose that school?
It was more of, I didn't really know how that whole thing worked, picking schools, waiting for them to come to you. I was very new to it all. Even going out and seeing campus, I didn't know that was a thing either. So when UMass Lowell came, I mean, I had a few phone calls before that, but they were the first to come. Yep. And they saw me for a weekend, and then right away they offered me a scholarship. And the pamphlet that they gave me, it just felt like a perfect fit. Mm-hmm. I took a night to sleep on it, and then I woke up with the gut feeling that this is right, this is it. Yeah. So I took my first offer, and then later I started learning, like, okay, you can go for a visit. So I ended up going for a visit and stuff. But for the most part, it was more of a gut feel that this was the right fit.
Confidence is something that you've never lacked. I think that's probably just part of being a goalie. And where does that come from for you? Is it just a mindset to sort of go in knowing that I can save every single puck tonight? Yeah. You know, I've had the right people around me, and my parents are very confident people, and my whole entire family, I should say, is very confident, and we are very in our own ways and we believe in ourselves a lot. Like that's the family way. My brother owns his businesses, and my aunts and uncles, they own their businesses, and everyone runs their lives, you know. And going into every game, I know I have control of everything in front of me, and I'm a realist too. Like, I watch video and I know where I can improve, but when I go into a game, I have that strong belief that if everything goes right and I am in control, then I can control stopping everything. How does that work with your relationship with Flats? I mean, he's the coach, and he's not that he's picking things apart by any means, but you know, he's the one identifying the things that you can get better at, and I'm sure you're seeing those as well. I guess just what's that relationship like? Well, at first we had to go through some improving stages. Definitely the NHL level is different, and you have to improve to get there and to stay there. So after those stages, like now we're to a point where when he pulls up a clip, and he already knows, he doesn't even have to say anything. He pulls up a clip, and I'm like, oh, yep, there it is. That's a problem, and we fix it right away. He's more of a manager now, as opposed to, well, let's improve every single day. It's more of, okay, let's make sure that your mind's right, your body's right, your small details are right. So now, some days we're improving, some days we're making sure my head's right, and some days we're just working on consistency, you know, getting the details right. And he's so good at what he does. He never makes us feel like, oh, we have a problem. Mm-hmm. Every day it's like, okay, we're trending the right way. We're building the right way, and tomorrow is going to be better than it was today. You signed a 6-year deal with the Jets back prior to the 18-19 season. What was it about Winnipeg that made you want to lock in long term? Well, I like the city as a whole. They've really embraced me. The organization's really embraced me, and being able to fish on my off days is fantastic. Helps me
take my mind off the rink. So I'm an overthinker.
Yep.
Overthink a lot of stuff, and I'm not much of a city guy. And Winnipeg is, you got your parts. Like, I'm just outside the city, and I love the feel of it. And I've really grown accustomed to the lifestyle that we have, where it's going to walk in the park in the forest, or playing some of my video games, or watching movies and cuddling up next to the fire. I've really grown accustomed to the lifestyle in Winnipeg, and I really enjoy it.
You mentioned being an overthinker. I think a lot of us deal with that on a daily basis. I guess you mentioned fishing, but what are some of your other tips and tricks that you use to, calm yourself down, or, tell yourself, hey, it's actually not that big a deal type thing?
So a lot of it is breathing and then looking back on it. Not in the moment, but taking some time and then looking back on it and realizing, I was probably overthinking that, or you need to take your mind off that, or maybe looking around the league and saying, okay, I understand what he's going through. So becoming more realistic with yourself when you're watching everything else that's going around you. And it does help going fishing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Doing something else where it completely takes your mind off focusing every day on one thing is almost a poison, right? Being able to go fishing or go golfing, or just watching golf on TV and really imagine yourself in something different helps you just break the connection that you were the rabbit hole that you're going down in one detail, and then you just come back and you're able to look at the whole thing as a whole and realize, okay, let's not overthink this. Let's just keep doing what we're doing.
Makes sense. What excites you about this year's team, this current edition of the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, I think this year's team can do it all. We can outscore teams. We can outdefend teams. And we have good goaltending, good defense, and good offense. So you never know what you're going to get out of us on every given night. And that's the best part of it. Like, who's going to be the hero tonight? You never really know. We have a lot of guys that can score. We have a lot of D-men that can shut things down. And it's so exciting to see a different team every single night, right? I mean, obviously we're playing the same way and we're sticking to our details, but for the hero, you never know who's going to be that guy, and that's exciting to me.
Makes a lot of sense. You've been with the group for a while now. How important has the consistency been, not only from a player standpoint, but just from a staff as well? I mean, you haven't had much turnover with the coaching staff at all.
Yeah, and I talked about this with one of the players the other day. Is the best part about our staff and our organization is they are growing with us. They're not just stuck in their ways, because like Paul, he has a ton of NHL games, and you still see him improving every single day. And we really are growing this team as a whole. Not just one guy is getting better and one part of the team is getting better. It is the entire team that is growing and getting better and really understanding what it takes to be good in this league.
I've asked you this before, and Paul always talks about how he just leaves the goalies alone. He lets Flats deal with the goalies. But what's your relationship like with Paul? I mean, you kind of, alluded to it a little bit there.
Yeah, it's changed a lot through the years as he grows more comfortable with me and understands that what me and Flats are doing is different than the forward to the defense. And he just lets us do our thing, and he trusts us. That's the biggest thing, the trust factor when that comes into play. But our relationship is, I respect him, and everything he says and everything he manages, I respect the way he's doing it, and I'm not going to question it. He has a lot of games, and he can see this team through the years, and he knows what's going to make us play best. So for me, I respect every decision he makes, and then if he needs something from me, he comes and talks to me. And so it's really business as usual, but there is a casual point where sometimes he'll joke with me with a story. Like yesterday before the game, he was telling me what the old times were when there was no advertisements on the boards, and the wingers would stay in their lanes, and it was good to hear a little bit of lighthearted stories from him.
Yeah, must be kind of cool too. I mean, the man has coached over 1,000 games in the NHL, and he's very likely a Hall of Fame coach one day. That has to be pretty cool as a hockey fan too.
Oh, absolutely. When him and Charlie Huddy get going, those guys have stories, and the good stories about the old days that you don't see anymore. And it's just back when it was so fun and funny and just different. And now there's so much pressure on the game, And I'm sure there's pressure back then too, but
Yeah.
now looking back, you can kind of laugh about it. And it's good to get the touches of that every once in a while.
You've had a couple different goalie partners here in Winnipeg, but right now you're with Laurent Brossoit. How has that relationship developed over the past few years? It seems like you guys are the best of buds.
Yeah, it's great because like we make each other better. And I know every goalie partner can say that, but the fact of the matter is we have the same trainer and very similar games. So it's not just making each other based on, okay, we're competing now. It's more, I try something new, he tries it, doesn't work. Then he tries something new and he tells me about it and I try it and it does work and stuff like that. So like little details where it's not just one guy figuring out and then one guy trying to see if it works for his game. It's a two-way street. Like he'll try some things that work into my game and I try some things that work into his game. And just being able to get better like that is so more consistent because he can see things from the outside and not even be afraid to tell me because he's all of a sudden just saying, okay, I'm working on this and I see this. And it's great that we can bounce ideas back and forth because it's almost like having another goalie coach.
Yeah, I was just going to say that must be kind of like that. Have you ever been in an opposite situation where your goaltending partner, whether, you guys are competing for a job and you're just not seeing eye to eye type of thing, and that has to be difficult, I would imagine.
No, not necessarily. Though at that point, it just becomes you're worrying about yourself and you're worrying about your own game, and then there's mental sides of it that all goalies understand because we're alone in the net and no one really understands goaltending like a goaltender. So there's always the mental side of it and what we're going through, which is always nice to have a goalie partner to talk about that.
That makes sense. Wrapping things up here, you mentioned it earlier, but you're an avid fisherman. What spots in Manitoba do you check out a lot of the time in the winter?
I am a big Lake Winnipeg guy.
Okay.
The walleye bite is real good, and learning to navigate that water is a little bit frustrating because there's always ridges and thick snow. But once you do, it's really easy and really fun.
Nice. Do you take any of the teammates out with you, or are you just a kind of a single guy out there in your shack?
No, I have.
Okay.
I take some teammates and I wait till I get on to a good bite before I take them. So
you don't get bad reviews.
Yeah, exactly, and make sure. And I have taken out a guy here and there when they haven't caught anything, and it sucks for me. I feel like it was even more pressure on me, and I want them to love what I do. But
sure.
No, just getting out there for an off day is just, especially when you bring a teammate and you just chat about everything that's going on and just lightweight, kind of take the stress off. That's the best part of it.
Who are you not inviting back?
Honestly, I've liked everyone I've gone with so far.
Good.
Everyone enjoys it. So
every fisherman has a great fishing story. Do you have one at all?
I guess I have a little one from Lake Winnipeg.
Sure.
I have this Panoptics where I can kind of see how big the fish is.
Okay.
And I caught a nice big walleye, and I'm bringing it up the hole, and I know it's big, and I get it into the hole, and the ice is probably 2 feet deep, maybe a little less.
Yeah.
I bring it into the hole, and all of a sudden, the lure pops out, and I can see the fish, and I know how big it is. And I got it face first through the hole, so it's hard for that big fish to turn around the hole and get down.
Yeah.
And as it's trying, I just shove my arm all the way down the hole.
No way.
And they have teeth in their mouth too, so I had to be very careful. Get my finger in its mouth and just grab a tooth and just slightly turn its head up so it can't turn back down. And then by this point, my whole forearm's in the hole. And at this point, I grab its neck and I start to pull it up, and then I get my other hand on it, and I pull out this 26-inch walleye.
No way.
Yeah. And I look, and it's like anything for the fish. And I think KC was with me at the time, and then my whole arm was just soaked. So yeah, there's your fishing story.
Great way to end it. Thanks so much, Connor.
You're welcome.
Shop where the players shop. Jets Gear and TrueNorthShop.com are your authentic team stores. Make sure to stock up on all your favorite Winnipeg Jets and Manitoba Moose merchandise today. Visit one of the 5 Jets Gear locations or shop online at TrueNorthShop.com.
Sliding into the back half of this podcast, Mitch, we'll start with you. The Winnipeg Jets, they get going this week. They finish up the 7-game road trip with a date against the Calgary Flames on Monday. And then on Wednesday and Friday, they take on the Toronto Maple Leafs and then wrap things up on Sunday with a battle against the Vancouver Canucks. And that's the start of a 2-game set. So what are we looking for from the Jets this week?
Well, I think the first thing is you finish off a stretch of 12 of 14 on the road. That's probably the biggest thing that the Jets are going to take out of the end of this 7-game road trip coming. You just know that that's been an absolute grind. Like, you come off I believe it was the 5-game road trip before, you're home for 3 days and you're back out on the road for nearly 2 weeks. Like, that's a lot. So now the challenge is, and I have to give a shout out to Dennis Bayak for this one, but he said it on the broadcast the other night. The challenge is handling the first game back from the road trip. The Jets have kind of feasted on teams in that position so far this season, and it's been similarly done to them to a certain extent at Bell MTS Place this season as well. So it's not going to be easy. You come home and you have a 2-game series with the Maple Leafs, the very team the Jets are chasing for top spot in the North. Then you have the Canucks coming in, and Vancouver's had some success inside Bell MTS Place so far this season. So while the Jets have enjoyed some success in Vancouver, it's been vice versa for the Canucks in Winnipeg. So it's also crazy to think that over this week, we're going to flip the calendar over to April. And the big bonus is we won't see a 9 p.m. start until the 17th of April after the Calgary game on Monday. So that's huge. Maybe I'm a little bit selfish in that, but
nope, man,
it's been those 9 p.m. starts are a real grind. I think that 9 p.m. start is actually Central Time in Winnipeg. So really making sure that we're feeling that one. But otherwise, another challenging week for the Jets. But I think when the calendar flips over to April and all of a sudden, I just think there's going to be, in a regular 82-game season, that would be kind of flipping over into the last few games. For this, obviously, there's still going to be a couple, I would say about 6 weeks left. But man, I think it's just going to be that point in the season where everybody's game kind of takes another step, because I don't know what it is about the month of April. Spring is sprung, if you will. And all of a sudden it just starts to feel like playoff hockey. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I think you'll see a bit of separation too on teams. Obviously the teams that are pushing for playoff spots, they'll start to have a little bit more risk in their game as they try and push. And as for the teams that are near the top, like the Winnipeg Jets, Edmonton Oilers, and Toronto Maple Leafs, it's just about, building your game and continuing to be better. Speaking of continuing to get better, Pierre-Luc Dubois, he's got 13 points in his 20 games with the Winnipeg Jets. Jamie, what have you seen from him over the last stretch here?
That big, strong man player that Paul Maurice had described when he first arrived in Winnipeg, and you have to wait a little bit for the quarantine to happen, and then of course to get his legs underneath him after those 14 days, and a comfortability with playing with Nikolai Ehlers and Kyle Connor, who I imagine would be extremely challenging to start with in a good way, because they're such two unique players, and you're not quite sure what they're going to do with the puck, because they're just so unique or so talented with the puck on their sticks. So I think he's found that comfortability with them. They're starting to work really good in the offensive end of the rink and find some chemistry. So Pierre-Luc Dubois has really added everything, I think, and a little bit more that the Winnipeg Jets thought he was going to add when they made the trade with Patrick Laine and Jack Roslovic going the other way.
Well, guys, let's wrap things up here on episode 100 of Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. Let's go through the memory banks a little bit.
All right.
And I'll start with you guys, because I am having trouble remembering anything, because I pretty much just woke up.
Me too, man.
So we all did. It was an early start.
Yeah.
Mitch, we'll start with you. Just what's your favorite memory of the 100 episodes that we've done so far?
I think one of the episodes that stands out is, whenever we're able to have Mark Chipman on, it's always huge, because there's just so many different topics that you can talk with him about, and he's always engaging and willing to kind of give you a little bit of insight into kind of some of the decisions that are made at a league level and everything that goes into it. Of course, he's on the Hockey Hall of Fame committee as well, so he just seems to have his hand in a lot of things. And so whenever he's able to sit down with us and kind of chat for 15 to 20 minutes, it's always a really exciting episode. So that's probably one of my favorite ones. And then also, I think it's just because I can't believe I'm going to say this, just because I miss part of the office setting, is how we used to, especially, I would say last season and even the first season of the pod, we would, after games, so it'd be 11:30 at night when we're done all the post game stuff, we would be recording the podcast, and we would be, we'd get all this work done, and it would be this build up to get all the post game content out. And then it's like, okay, let's do the podcast. And then we would all have our mics in our hands, and we'd all just lean back in our chairs because we're just like, okay, time to be laid back a little bit. And we'd all kind of do it at once. And I think one time we all did it without even like saying anything. We all just had a good laugh at that. So always fun to do these podcasts every week, and we're glad that people are enjoying them to the effect that they even listen to us for 100 episodes. So we appreciate the support for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Appreciate you guys, the listeners. Would not still be doing this without you. So appreciate the downloads every week. Jamie, sliding over to you.
How about when we were in Columbus on the guest trip, and Karen Pionk stopped by with Neil Pionk, and Neil, fantastic guy, very quiet though when it comes to dealing with the media. So whenever we've had him on the podcast, including in our old Jets TV office back in the day when Neil first got to Winnipeg, and he told the story of almost dying in New York.
Yes.
So of the busy traffic, but Karen Pionk telling the stories of missing skates and kids getting the wrong one and leaving their youngest son at the rink one time and not realizing they had left him there till they got home in the garage. So that's by far my favorite, because it just seems so it was not expected. I thought a lot of cool stories about Neil were coming, but Karen really delivered that day on the podcast. So that's one of my favorite memories. And then just a lot of the late nights that we've done, and the fact that we've pieced this together for so long. 100 episodes is quite the accomplishment, especially from where we started.
Yeah, shout out to Neil Pionk. Actually, he's our only 3-time guest, so
and it's well deserved.
Yes,
I hear he brags about that in the room.
I think he does. I think he does for sure. And he actually asked me if he could come on for a 4th.
There we go.
He did not ask me that. I will ask him that.
You delivered that pretty well. I'm like, wow, he did. That's fantastic.
Well, considering Jamie stole one of my favorite memories, even though I was just sitting there monitoring the audio for that interview, really enjoyed listening to Neil and his mom. My favorite memory, I think, goes back to the first episode that we did with Paul Bissonnette, Biz Nasty.
Oh, yes.
Known, and he called us the ECHL of podcasts. I'd like to think we've graduated at least one tier since then. I think we have some pretty good guests, and we have some good banter and commentary, but I think that was my favorite memory by far of all the interviews that we've done. But overall, just, the support that we've gotten from the fans and the downloads we get every week. We've had steady growth since the start of the podcast, so definitely appreciate it. Appreciate the work that you guys put in every week to pull some analysis from the stats that you're seeing and what you're seeing, and translate it into the fans into a very digestible way. So appreciate that. Anyway, fellas, let's wrap this up. On behalf of myself, Tyler Esquivel, Jets TV's Mitchell Clinton, Jamie Thomas of 680 CJOB, Paul Edmonds, and of course, the illustrious producer, Daniel Moss, back in Winnipeg, who always puts this together and makes it sound beautiful. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. We'll see you next week.
This has been Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV. For Jets news, videos, and more, head to winnipegjets.com.